Hi there, my name is Bruce Starr, and my guest today on Sports Talk is Jerone L. Davison, a former NFL Oakland Raiders football player who played his college ball at Arizona State and who is now a minister in Northern California. He's a man that's been faced with many obstacles in his life, and that's why I wanted him to be on the show today. But being in the NFL and staying there, what a challenge that is. But as he's going to tell us, nothing could compare to facing an unexpected divorce. I know very well that many men of today suffer silently when faced with tragedy in their lives. Jerone Davison knows that men who are challenged in their recovering from the pain of divorce or traumatic loss feel they don't have a voice because they are men. And he has learned that he can recover and heal from the emotional scars and wounds that obstacles bring and yet have a voice. Knowing now that there are other men besides himself and myself that suffer silently inspired him to write the book The Broken Strong Man. And as a community activist, Jerone has given away thousands of dollars in scholarships. He has fed and clothed the homeless. He has healed and changed lives through counseling and teaching as a minister in local communities where he lives. So I want to welcome to the show former NFL player, author, and minister Jerone Davison. Welcome to the show, Jerome. Great to have you.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I'm excited to be on the show, and what a great introduction, man. You read it pretty good.
Well, I have a good teacher. Also joining us on today's show is Bennett Davison. Bennett is an accomplished basketball player, played all around the world. Tell us just a little bit about you, Bennett, before we get into talking with cousin Jerome.
Well, actually, this is a sports talk show. Jerome, he's about 4 years ahead of me, so I remember leaving a small town of Sebastopol, driving over to Solano to watch him play in the junior college, and he was laying fools out. So we actually, after the game was there, Dad walks up to the field and stuff, and give hugs and stuff, and walked away. I was like, Dad, did you see how big Jerome is? I want to be that big one day. So he was kind of like, he paved the ways of how to go from a small area, non-recognized, to a junior college, to a prime school, to the professional. So it was a good little, he set the path in which it was easier to follow.
I mean, what an accomplishment. I mean, all you have to do is watch Hard Knocks on HBO to realize that even on one team, there's like 100 guys going out for 50 positions, and that means one out of every two of those guys who would do anything to be in the NFL, they're going to go home sort of with their tails between their legs, even though it's not an embarrassing thing. They can only handle so many players. But what an accomplishment, Jerome, to make it into the NFL. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, not only do you have to be physically fit, I think in order to make a team, a club to that level, as you mentioned, everyone's clamoring for those positions. It's only a few positions. There's only one ball. There's only one quarterback. There's only one star. There's only one team. So I think if you win the mental battle, because when you're going through camp and training camp, your body's hurt, you're aching, and if you could just be strong mentally, most guys give up after so long. The body starts to talk to them. They get winded. They get tired. And if you can win that, if you can be strong mentally, you can make it. But there's so many guys who are just talented, even preceding me. I grew up in a small town, Picayune, Mississippi, and so many guys talented. Before Michael Jordan did the free throw line jump, I had a guy in my high school that was doing that. But he just didn't win the mental battle, the streets, the call of the streets, and getting involved in some other things. And that's a part of winning the mental battle. Not getting caught up with drugs and alcohol and the club life and the domestic, situations, if you can win that. But, of course, that was pretty easy for me because I was a very devout Christian, and I gave my life to the Lord at 17 years old, and that was, fairly easy for me. But the experience in the NFL was like a dream come true, which it was. I was a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school because of the situation in my hometown and just small town, country, financially strapped. So I moved to Northern California, and as my cousin Bennett said, I played at a junior college, and I was really doing it, you know. And from there, I got a scholarship to Arizona State. And from there, you know, I got injured as my senior year at Arizona State. I was depicted to be a first-round draft pick, Bruce, first rounder. And I played against UCLA. It was in UCLA. First play of the game, I tore a cartilage in my ankle and a bone spur developed.
Oh, my God.
The rest of the season, I hobbled through the season. They told me it was just a high ankle sprain, which turned out to be really a loss of cartilage. So that set me back when it came to the NFL. So when I ran a 40 time for them, I ran a 4.6 limping. I was only a week out of surgery, so I ran a 4.6. But
oh my God,
that started a whole lot of stuff for me. I was going in and out of training camps. They was cutting me, bringing me in. I went to, at the time, this is how old I am. I'm telling my age right here. It was the Los Angeles Rams. So that was back in '92. I got picked up by the Los Angeles Rams, but I was in camp. I was in so much pain, you know, so they ended up having to cut me, and then I got picked up by the 49ers, and I was released by the 49ers, and I was picked up by the 49ers, and I was released by the 49ers, and eventually I said, hey, I got to do something, so I traveled overseas, played ball in Europe for the Rhein Fire in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Been there.
By the time I got off the plane, you was there, cuz? You was in Dusseldorf? I'm sure you were.
I did a gym and out of town.
Okay, yeah. By the time I got off the plane from traveling from Dusseldorf, my agent called me and said that the Oakland Raiders, they said they need you. They not only want to sign you, but they need you. And it turned out that they really needed me. I played there. I was a starting fullback for a great running back, Napoleon Kaufman. And I remember my first Monday night game coming out of the tunnel. They announced my name on Monday Night Football. Jerone Davison, starting fullback. Oh my God! Hey man, I could have passed out. I barely played that. You know, I was barely able to play the game, but I had a great game that game. We did great. So it was a wonderful experience for me. Yeah.
Just before we go on, tell me a little bit about some of the connections you made with some of the other players, because I know that if you're injured, I know it's like being an alien on a team, and they're so competitive. Tell me about some of the guys that you played with that maybe had a good positive influence on your time there.
Okay, you know, my God, when I was with the San Francisco 49ers, I became the Bible study leader with guys like Ricky Waters, Dexter Carter, Mr. Fumbleitis. You know, I was there for, you know, Jerry Rice. Of course, Steve Young wouldn't get involved. He's a devout Mormon, so. But I was teaching Bible studies for those guys. They didn't even know me, man, and they was asking me to teach the Bible to them. By the time I got to the Raiders, I was a very mature, well-developed in the Word of God. I knew the Bible very well. And they made me the team chaplain even before I made the team at the Oakland Raiders. This is what happened. I'm going to tell you this story real quick, and I'm going to let you move forward with your interview. I'm going to tell you something very interesting. The Oakland Raiders brought me in, and by this time in training camp, I was doing Bible study every night. Steve Wisniewski, Napoleon Kaufman gave his life to the Lord. Tim Brown asked me to counsel him before he married his wife. So all these big-name people, Chester McLaughlin, who passed away like 3 or 4 years ago, he gave his life to the Lord. So I was teaching Bible study with them and doing great. So the Oakland Raiders cut me. They cut me. They let me go. And I had touched all these lives, and all these guys were just... They just loved me. They loved the way I played, too. So the Raiders let me go, and while I was at the gym working out, my agent called me. He said, Jerome, he said, what did you do to those players over at the Raiders? I said, what you mean? What you talking about, man? I don't know what you're talking about. What I do? He said, man, he said, Mike White, who was the head coach at that time, Mike White called me, and he said, it's urgent for you to get back to camp. He said, because Jeff Hostetler and Steve Wisniewski stood up in a team meeting and said to Coach Mike White, you told us that you wanted the best players to play, and you got rid of J.D. That's what they called him. And the coach said, y'all want J.D. back? And the whole team like, we need him back. Because I was knocking people out in preseason. I was knocking them out. You know, I had my concussions, but I stayed awake.
Tell me your size, because we, you know, when you were playing around that time, what was your size?
Well, 6'1", 235.
Wow.
At Arizona State, I was 6'1", 220. At junior college, I was, 200, 220 in and out, and I was a track star, ran track, and I could play basketball. Bennett never got to experience my jump shot.
Never.
I got a smooth jump shot, cuz.
You got a smooth jumper?
Yes.
What?
Nice. We're born with it.
That's right. It's a Davison thing.
Guys, when I watch NFL football games now, and it pains me to see top player after top player getting injured. I mean, it's just it's beyond, for me. It's beyond. It's almost like I can barely watch the game because of the top guys that are getting injured, and they're not getting up either. They're being carted off the field, one after another after another. Jerone, is this something fairly new? Because when I was a kid, and I'm going to date all you guys, and I'm not going to say what teams I was watching, but when I was watching the old New York Giants, those guys were together for 8, 9, 10 years. Those offensive lines were together for years and years, and defensive lines, Jim Cabbage and Roosevelt Brown, and oh my God, there was never any room for rookies. What is going on now?
Let me tell you, it's the money, man. Money has made the league soft. It has made the league soft. You can get a rookie who come in and have not played a down, and his bank account has surpassed everyone on the team almost put together. And they baby him in practice. They put a red jersey on him and treat them all like quarterbacks because they are an investment. They are a major baby of the team. I remember back in my day when I was with the Los Angeles Rams, I just come out of Arizona State, and they had the other Jerone. Well, my name is pronounced with an N, Jerone. My parents are blended with Indian descent. So my dad was going to name me Geronimo, but my mom stopped him, thank God. But Jerome Bettis, the great Jerome Bettis, who Hall of Famer.
Yep.
When they brought him in, he was not a running back. He was a fullback. His feet was not good, but they babied him and prepared him to be a running back, and he turned out to be one of the greatest in the league. But that's the way they do. When you come in with money, a guy like me, you have a rare chance if the guy in front of you has a big paycheck. And one of the reasons why I think the players are getting injured today is because of off-season training. If you are out of shape, you're going to pull hamstrings. You're going to tear ligaments in the knee. You're going to mess up your shoulder. It's all about off-season training. In pro football, as my cousin Bennett knows, there is no off-season. There's no off-season. You got a few minutes. You got a few weeks to spend vacation with the wife and kids and have a little good time. But mostly, you have to always be at the top of your game if you're going to survive a league such as the NFL. But the way they're doing it now, I was saying the same thing myself. It looks as if with the new helmets or whatever, seems like they're getting a lot more easier than they have in the past. It's just ridiculous.
Yep. Different rules, different places you can tackle people, and all that stuff.
When you see a guy like the quarterback of the Washington Redskins who could take a whole team and turn it around for a generation to come, right? I mean, this guy is so talented that who knows what could happen, and then boom,
right?
Someone runs him down, breaks his knee, and that's it for a whole generation for that team. Look what's happening now with Cousins, the poor guy, talented football player. He's got like 8 or 9 interceptions in the last week or so.
Well, college is a whole different beast. When you step into the NFL, it's in college you have, on the field with you, if you're a very talented player like RG3, you're high-ranking, fast, and you stand out like a thumb on the team, maybe 4 other players on the same field that could equal your talent. By the time you get to the NFL, you got 11 guys on the other side of the ball that's just as great. You're going to find a few teams. I remember back in the day when you were in the NFL, you could look at a team like the Cardinals and say, okay, that's a win. Seattle, okay, that's a win. But no, it's changing, man. I mean, everything is really changing. So by the time you get to the NFL, I think RG would just do better with being a pocket passer first and then using his legs second.
Well, he's lucky if he gets to be a pocket passer now.
You think so?
Hey, with all this and these stories and NFL experiences, and for the short burst, the professional athlete's life is very short. Your experience with the NFL, and then you transition into preaching. What was that? I mean, obviously, like you said, at 17, this has been your calling. But what was your kind of like that transition from NFL to becoming a preacher and having your own church and that type of stuff? What was that whole experience like?
It was lonely, because it was very lonely. It was difficult to walk away from the game, because when I left the game, when I decided to resign and just walk away from the game, I was the Oakland Raiders had let me go, and I was approached by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was approached by the New Orleans Saints, Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs really, really wanted me, and I thought to myself, all of those are cold weather teams, and if they're not cold weather, they play on the turf. And I have a bad ankle injury. I have osteoarthritis in my right ankle.
Yeah.
And I've had it since college, and I just I couldn't see myself doing it. And if I did do it, it would probably equal hobbling for the rest of my life. So I had to let that go. So it was really kind of bittersweet. But although I love God and I love His ministry and doing the work of God, and I think it's one of the greatest, actually, no, it's the greatest privilege of my life to preach the gospel and do something for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. But that transition was very lonely for me. I had nobody to mentor me from that transition to the NFL and to ministry. I just kind of winged it and asked God to help me along the way. And I studied and I prayed, and I just developed. It's kind of like that emerald, it's being developed under pressure.
Yeah.
And I was developed under pressure, and I do pretty good as a minister now.
So one of the interesting things that I found out about you, Jerone, is that you met someone when you were younger, someone in whether it was junior high school, high school. I'd like you to tell me the story about your first marriage, if you would.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, just to give y'all a little insight into my personality, I've never been a smooth ladies man. I've never had like the lines, like you, Bruce. I've never had the lines to approach the women.
Yeah, I agree.
He's not going to argue with that.
Look, I never had a line. I never developed a line. You're like, what's your sign, or whatever the case is. But the women always approached me, and the type of person I was is that when I had a girlfriend, she was my girlfriend. It was almost like a marriage. I didn't have anybody else. She was mine. I expected her to stay faithful to me. So, and my mom warned me about that. She said, you're in high school. Just have fun. Don't act like you're married. But anyway, I moved to California. I left from Mississippi, moved to California, and got deeply involved in the church. At the same time, going to junior college and playing football and all that stuff. And I met this lovely young lady at a church picnic. She was wearing a dress. She looked a good church girl, and she was very beautiful, very outgoing. And we dated for a little bit. We talked on the phone some, and before I knew it, I was off to Arizona State. And I came back and I engaged her. We got married, and we just had a wonderful life together. 5 children, and she's a singer. She could sing, and she had a CD out, and she came from a preaching family and a singing family. And I was fresh into the church. My mom was in the church. My dad was not, of course. When I talk about the Davison men, that's
we know what you're saying.
Right. So, but my mom was very heavily into the church, and her prayers and her life, it drew me into, loving Jesus and loving God. And she purchased me a Bible for my 15th birthday. It was the best gift she ever bought me. I mean, I've had motorcycles, mopeds, 3-wheelers and all that stuff, even a car. But the best gift she ever bought me was a Bible. It's kept me out of so much trouble. It's kept me in a lot of peace and victory. And so, yeah, we had a wonderful life, married, about 18 years. And then something terrible happened. I mean, something beyond my thoughts, something beyond my dream. I've never even planned or prepared for that. I never thought it could happen. Me, my wife stepped out on me, and it was one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever done. As a matter of fact, I preached a few messages, preaching the gospel so long, I preached a few messages on forgiveness. But when this situation came up, I realized I knew nothing about how to forgive somebody, because I had never been hurt like this before in my life. Never been hurt like that. So I asked God to help me. I need you to help me understand what forgiveness is like. How do I forgive? where do I begin? You know, first of all, I'm trying to survive emotionally and mentally and physically. I wasn't eating. The stress was kind of starting to wear away at my body, and some different things was going on in my body. I had to go to the emergency room several times. I had developed a sciatic nerve through the stress. And, you know, I don't know if either one of you guys have had a sciatic nerve, but it's a painful, painful thing. I even had a
hot nail in your spine, yeah.
Yes, indeed. It's like a toothache all up and down your leg. And I had a dream one night that I just sawed it off. I just had a dream I cut it off. I was in so much pain, but yeah, I loved her. I loved her. Let me tell you something. This is between us guys, you know. I never even flirted with another woman as long as I was married to her. Let alone, I never even flirted. You know, I was satisfied with her, and, you know, I was just really happy with her and just in love with her every step of the way. But, you know, things happen, and that's what happens in life.
You know, part of the work that I do, Jerone, and we talked a little bit about this earlier in the day, part of the work that I do as a relationship coach and trainer is coming to terms to realize that men are at a tremendous disadvantage when it comes to healing from such a huge event like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lady, you know, it's debatable whether a man, it's possible, we talked about, a man could actually have deeper feelings for a woman that he really loves than possibly a woman having deep feelings for the man that she loves. We'll never know. You really can't compare. But certainly when someone genuinely, in a healthy way, loves another person, it runs very deep. And I had my heart broken when I was 18, 19 years old. And I've got to tell you, the direction that my relationships took from that point on changed dramatically. I was scared to death to put my heart on the line and dare to love someone. What happens if they reject me? What happens if they dump me? I mean, the pain, like what you're saying, is off the charts.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, is equal to his private part. Just like this, it's like Abraham was in a covenant relationship with God, and God told him to sacrifice or to circumcise the foreskin of his flesh. Paul comes around and tells us in the book of Romans that it's not the physical circumcision that God was really after with Abraham or after men. He's after the spiritual circumcision of the heart. So Abraham's physical circumcision represented our spiritual circumcision of our heart. So when a man gives his heart to a woman, his penis, his private area, he's actually sharing his heart with a woman. And that's why I always tell men, you know, be very careful about having sex with women, because this may be the woman that really steals your heart, and she could be a no good woman. You know, and your heart is there and your emotions are there. You become one with a person through sexual contact. And when you become one, you become mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically tied to that person. I always recommend to young people, hey, I know you love the girl, I know you love the guy, he's fine, she's sexy and all that good stuff, and she's cute and all that. But if you have sex with him, you have to be very mature, because this very person could reject you and leave you to deal with the stress and the mess of coming out of a soul tie that didn't go right. You know, but yes, I believe, one of the things that I mentioned in my book, The Broken Strong Man, is that I believe that good men, love harder than good women. I believe that good men love harder than good women, which is why you see most men who would, after getting cheated on, after discovering their wife has cheated on them, they usually either do something physical to the person, do something physical to the woman, and God forbid, and I don't teach or train or suggest that men do these things, but just statistically speaking, men have a history of committing suicide with themselves. They first of all kill the wife, kill the lover, and then kill themselves. Women don't do that. Women, you know, have another way of dealing with it. It's kind of like this: a pool that doesn't have a release or a flow, it sits and it becomes stagnant and it stinks and it gets putrefied, and all kinds of different disease begin to develop, and fungus develops there. That's kind of like how we do as men when we get hit with some hurt and some pain. You know, we rarely reach out of outside of ourselves to get it out. Women talk to everybody, men trying to keep it to themselves, so we suffer in silence.
Very much so. And so let me kind of like put this all kind of in together. You know, you came from a small town, an impoverished town in Mississippi, to come out to California, going through the steps of junior college. You know, every waking day is the church and the college to a Pac-10. Then you go to NFL. Then you go to 18 years of marriage, and then you're late in life. You know, maybe in your late 30s, and then you're dealing with this huge thing that just like I felt like I've never failed at anything in my life, and now to feel that I failed in something, you know, and you've put those words, and I remember you sitting there telling me, he's like, I looked on the internet, who do I counsel, who do I talk to about, you know, no preachers have been written any books or any articles specifically on infidelity, you know, and you've taken that void, taken those events that have brought you to where you are now, and you've created the Broken Strong Man. Tell us about that.
I was broken, but I remained strong, because I've learned to be mentally strong. You know, I've learned to be spiritually strong, physically strong. I still, at this point, Cuz and Bruce, I just want y'all to hear this pretty good. I still, at this point, lift over 400 pounds on the bench press.
Wow.
I still bench.
I can do a deadlift with my legs and full body, not 400 chest.
But you're right. I felt like a failure. And one of the questions I talk about in my book, one of the questions, the things that it tortured me, it wouldn't allow me to sleep. I couldn't eat. I lost so much weight. I was just tortured. But by the time I got around other people or around my children, I had to suck it up. But one of the things that tortured me was why. I asked myself why. I would get some answers. But then those questions or those answers would lead to more questions. So I had to stop asking why, because it tortured me, and it just took me down a path that never ended. And it may be some people listening to me today, some men listening to the show, and they're asking why. Why would the wife do that? Am I not endowed enough for her? Am I not handsome enough for her? And I battled with that too. The feeling of insecurity tried to overtake me, but I wouldn't allow it, because what I said to myself was this, is that everyone is an individual. Everybody have their own decisions. And you know what? I've been a great man, a great husband, great provider for her. And if she decides to step out and feel curious about doing something, well, then that's on her. And you have to allow people room to do that. But here's the thing. After it's done, do you allow them to come back into your life? Well, I tried it, and I felt like I tried it. I tried to give her room to get back. The attitude and the different disposition was just couldn't trust her again. So, but yeah, it's very painful. It feels like a loss. It feels like I didn't win, as you said. I was successful in college, successful in the pros, and success all around me. Have degrees, and have ministry and all of that. And then to fail at that, one of the biggest things that I felt like a failure was when I looked at the eyes of my children, and they were so confused and they were so hurt. That was almost unbearable for me. When I almost had to avoid them just to survive for myself. It was so painful.
Understood completely. Been there. Is when you wake up. Nice. And so, with the Broken Strong Man, and how can someone reach out? How do they go out about reaching out to you if they are dealing with some similar issues? Using the Lord as a vehicle to be able to build up strength inside the individual. How would someone find this book and be able to contact you?
Oh yeah, well, I'm on Facebook, The Broken Strong Man, or you can type in my name, Jerone Davison, or either mostly go to my webpage, brokenstrongman.com. I am right now currently developing a ministry which I call 1,000 Broken Pieces, where I personally would like to mentor 1,000 men with my phone number, webinars, prayers, services, whatever it takes to help heal them, to get them through, so that the broken pieces become one piece again. It's kind of like putting Humpty Dumpty back together again.
Yep.
But it's 1,000 Broken Pieces ministry, and I do have At least I have over 30 at this point.
Nice.
Call me on a daily basis, or we connect email, we connect text. We try to we walk through it. Like you, Bennett. You know how it is to go through the process, and then however the thing turned out. There's a big nasty fight in court over the kids, and the court system is from my perspective and from my experience, the court systems towards the women and are heavy-handed towards the man. Although I was innocent, I went to jail on several occasions. I was locked up because she cried to the DA. I was locked up innocently. I didn't do anything. I didn't put hands on nobody or anything, and I was locked up in jail. Had to get out in a town where I myself am a minister, and some of the people in the jail knew that I was a minister, had heard of my name, and they was asking me, "Hey, aren't you the pastor? What are you doing in here?" I had to explain the whole thing. Really, I wanted to just keep it private, keep it from getting out in the community, and it was just embarrassing.
Everyone has a story when they're going through those nonsensical husband and wife things.
Exactly.
Best thing to do is just sit back. One of the security guards, actually one of the sheriffs, walked up to me. He says, "Hey, this is a long, drawn-out process. Think of going baby steps, and when you're completing those baby steps on a daily basis, you look back and you realize, hey, I've taken some giant strides. You can't live in the moment, because you start living and dwelling in the moment, that's when it starts to eat you, and you ask those questions, and why ask another question, why? And then you never really solve anything. And like you said, when an individual, Jerone is an individual, Bruce, you're an individual, I'm an individual, and our spouses are individuals, and you've got to be able to say, hey, is this person completing me?
Yeah.
Hey, only they can answer those questions. So thank you for sharing your story, your past, your present, your current, and your future.
Amen.
Jerome, you and I, it's amazing that we're kind of doing the same work. You from your position as a minister, and me from mine as a relationship coach and trainer. And I would love for someday sooner than later for us to join forces and see how we can help men out there who for the most part don't have a voice, just like you said.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like the more men that we could reach and cause a dialogue among men. And listen, when I started this ministry, one of the questions that was posed to my mind and from other people was that, what is this going to make you look like? Is it going to make you look like less than a man or whatever? I was like, well, I'm confident in my manhood. And because I'm strong mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and it's kind of like what Jesus said. He said this. He says, if these things happen to a green tree, he said, then most definitely it's going to happen to the twigs. So I'm a strong man. I was a great man, never cheated, never beated, great provider. And if these things happen to me, well, then I know it's happening to other men too, and that's why I decided to write the book. And I feel like my story and the advice that I would give in the book is going to be a blessing to thousands of men nationwide.
Well, it's been an honor, Jerome, to have you on the show and to hear your story. Fantastic. What a great guy. Stronger than ever in your life and in your spirituality and your beliefs about the world around you. So it's an honor to have both of you guys on, Bennett and Jerome. Thank you for being on this show, and I hope we get this out to thousands and thousands of men, because having men, this world is headed in the wrong direction, and I feel, Jerome, that you are a wonderful, wonderful vehicle to start the process of healing men, and I'd love to come along with you.
Thank you very much, and you can consider it done. Love to have you on my show, The Broken Straw. Of course, I already have it set up with Bennett already. Oh, look at that. Hi. Okay.
Kenya, 10 years old.
Hello, Kenya.
So these are two big guys. One's a big old football player. One's a big old basketball player.
I can guess who's who.
Yeah, look at that. Thank you.
She can guess it.
Why? Because I got a big head like a basketball? Is that
why? You're funny, Bennett. Okay, guys. Great, great show. I look forward to doing your show tomorrow, Jerome, and doing a lot more work with you, Bennett, spreading the word out there about healthy living, healthy life, healthy sports, and just great having you guys. Thanks for being on.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Good night.